It's an era where renting is more often a better deal than buying.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by Schwab. Schwab knows that investors want control of their financial future. That's why when it comes to wealth management, Schwab is dedicated to giving investors more choices. More at schwab.com.
I'm David Brancaccio. First, the clash is shaping up over whether California can set strict vehicle emissions and efficiency standards. The federal EPA is part of this, and now the U.S. Supreme Court. Justices have agreed to consider whether the oil industry can directly challenge emissions rules, even though they're not automakers. Marketplace with Nova Safo is here with more. Nova?
Well, David, we're very likely heading for a clash because California wants to set even tougher vehicle emission standards than what Donald Trump objected to during his first term in office. This time around, it would be a ban on the sale of all new gasoline engine vehicles in the state starting in 2035. New cars, not ones still on the road. California needs a waiver from federal rules to set this tougher standard. There are multiple reports now that the Biden administration is about to grant that waiver. And what happens in California, of course, is crucial because it's the biggest car market in the country. It has huge sway over the auto industry.
But the president-elect has said he would reverse this if the Biden people send it through, right?
Well, he has certainly suggested as much in a social media post, and he's emphasized boosting oil and gas production when he was running for office and getting rid of electric vehicle incentives. Now, during Trump's first term, he did revoke California's waiver. The state mounted a legal challenge left unresolved because the Biden administration reversed Trump's decisions. Now we could be headed, David, for a repeat of that legal fight.
And now the U.S. Supreme Court is saying it will have a voice in this?
Right. Justices say they will hear oral arguments over whether the oil and gas industry can challenge California's current EPA waiver. California gets these on a regular basis. The Supreme Court hearing could be over a technical question regarding standing, and depending on how it rules, it could expand who can challenge regulatory decisions, which could limit federal agency powers, David.
All right, thank you. In an era of higher interest rates and not a lot of houses for sale, it's not a surprise that we're paying more for homes. What's surprising is how much more versus renting. New data from the real estate firm CBRE show the average monthly mortgage payment for those buying today is about 75% higher than in 2019. Nationally, new monthly mortgage payments are now about 35% more than renting. And in cities like Los Angeles, Austin, Salt Lake, and Seattle, it's as much as 160% more expensive to own versus rent. Marketplace's Samantha Fields has more.
Owning a home has long been a central part of the American dream.
For many Americans, especially middle and lower income Americans, that's kind of the primary way that a lot of folks build wealth.
But Chris Salviati at Apartment List says these days, for those who don't own yet,
that math has kind of changed a little bit.
All of the components of homeownership have gotten more expensive. Jenny Schutz at Arnold Ventures says that includes home prices and interest rates, which are the main things people tend to think of.
The other two pieces that we don't think about as often are property taxes and insurance.
And those have both risen too. Insurance has historically been a small fraction of most people's monthly payment.
But in the last several years, as natural disasters become more costly and more frequent, we're also seeing rates go up.
Given all that, Andres Shahidinejad at Northeastern University says if you're weighing renting versus buying today and just thinking about the math,
I think everyone should be leaning a little bit more than they were before in the direction of renting.
But he says for most people, buying a home is usually not just about numbers.
There's also an emotional component to it.
And that carries a lot of weight too. I'm Samantha Fields for Marketplace.
Markets, S&P futures are up 0.3%. NASDAQ futures are up 0.5%. Economists are forecasting higher interest rates next year amid concerns inflation will jump under expected Trump administration policies that include higher tariffs. This is from a fresh survey of economists by the Financial Times and the University of Chicago Booth Business School. The ever-resilient U.S. labor market is also part of this. When asked how much consumer inflation would increase after 12 months of, say, 60% tariffs, a third of economists said as much as 1%, and 20% said as much as 2% higher inflation.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by Progressive Insurance. Progressive is currently looking for individuals in a variety of career fields who are interested in building a career and joining an inclusive and unique culture. More information, including application, at progressive.com/careers.
Last week, Google unveiled, that's the word I'm looking for, a new generation of its artificial intelligence system, Gemini. This is not to be confused with OpenAI's ChatGPT or Microsoft Copilot or Meta's Llama. Marketplace's Matt Levin has an update on the AI arms race.
Earlier this month, OpenAI announced a new premium subscription tier aimed at ChatGPT super users. For $200 a month, you basically get unfettered access to the latest and greatest version of their large language model. Amin Ahmad at the enterprise AI firm Vectara is an early subscriber, and he's impressed by its coding skills.
It can write complete programs for me that would have taken a few days, or let's say I would have handed off to an intern in the past, and it does them for me in a few minutes.
But Ahmad says even with its latest generation of AI products, the early technological lead OpenAI had is fading. Google, Meta, and other companies have released AI models that perform just as well, if not better, on many industry benchmarks.
So the problem, I think, for OpenAI is that, the competition has gotten really, really good. There's many companies and the models are just getting better by the day, and they're closing the gap.
OpenAI's biggest investor, Microsoft, is the early leader when it comes to selling AI programs to other businesses. Dan Ives at the investment firm Wedbush says by integrating AI into products like Word and Excel, Microsoft has leveraged its ubiquity in the American workplace.
Enterprises rely and look at the foundation of Microsoft like bread and water for a typical person. And that's why they've benefited.
The wild card in the AI arms race so far has been Meta and its open source AI system Llama. Angelo Zeno is a tech analyst with CFRA.
They're kind of trying to get as many people or developers as possible onto their ecosystem, essentially giving the platform away for free before they actually start monetizing.
Of course, the biggest monetizer in AI so far is NVIDIA. But remember, they don't actually make the robots, just the chips that power them. I'm Matt Levin for Marketplace.
And interest in GLP-1 weight loss drugs has gotten a lot of people who've not seen a doctor in a while to go in and get a checkup. This is from a new Reuters analysis of health patient data. This includes, for example, obese people who've been avoiding doctors because they feared the stigma of their weight. I'm David Brancaccio, Marketplace Morning Report from APM, American Public Media.